That's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit's going on around there.
It's a lot. So you have players that are very significant.
Everything you thought you knew about the Indiana Fever is about to be turned upside down. A few months ago, Hall of Famer Sheryl Swoopes called this franchise a nuclear wasteland, insisting no top-tier player would willingly walk into what she described as a toxic locker room. Critics took that statement as gospel, warning that even a superstar rookie like Caitlin Clark couldn't save a team supposedly rotting from the inside out. Yet, here we are, witnessing a dramatic reversal, so sudden it feels scripted by Hollywood. In an offseason that blindsided all the doubters, the Fever managed to attract some of the most prominent free agents on the market, build a roster that's looking increasingly dangerous, and get an unexpected nod from one of basketball's most respected voices, Sue Bird. Suddenly, what was once rumored to be the league's radioactive wasteland has become the place to be. How did it happen so quickly? Why did the narrative flip from stay away at all costs to where do I sign? And is it all riding on the shoulders of a young star who has no intention of playing second fiddle to anyone? Not so long ago, Sheryl Swoopes made it her personal mission to sound the alarm on the Fever's future. She didn't just criticize the organization in passing, she practically wrote them off the map. If you believed her version of events, the entire franchise was headed straight for disaster, weighed down by an alleged broken culture, toxic relationships, and a front office too disorganized to fix any of it. According to her, free agents were talking behind the scenes, telling their agents, anywhere but Indiana, as if merely setting foot in that locker room would taint a player's reputation. Swoopes' remarks weren't just a passing jab. They were the kind of statements that sparked debates in locker rooms around the league, sowing fear in fans and fueling speculation in sports media. Players whispered that, behind closed doors, morale was so low that even established talents were desperate to leave.
That takes us to Indiana, which I think everyone agrees right now has gone from, a team that made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. They were building all these young pieces, of course, Caitlin Clark, to now an immediate contender with all the moves that they.
The rumor mill kept churning out story after story. Nobody wants to sign there, they're doomed. Or that place is a career graveyard. Stars go in and vanish. Meanwhile, you had a wave of social media chatter about how Caitlin Clark, the sensational college phenom, was about to enter the WNBA at the worst possible destination if she somehow got drafted by Indiana. Spectators read Swoopes' comments and assumed the seeds of truth ran deeper. Some said, she's a Hall of Famer, she must have inside info. Others wondered if she was overreacting or if something personal had clouded her judgment. Then came the official free agency period, and that was when everything started crumbling around Sheryl Swoopes' scorching take. One big name after another began inking deals with the Fever, each one testifying they saw potential in Indiana. The moment the signings were confirmed, that old phrase, nobody wants to play there, suddenly looked like it had an expiration date in neon lights. While Swoopes had tried to paint a picture of a locker room in disarray, the reality turned out to be the polar opposite. Something was happening in Indiana, something exciting enough to overshadow all the doomsday talk. And just when skeptics thought it might be a fluke or some random anomaly, maybe a single bold signing that wouldn't truly shift the balance, Sue Bird decided to weigh in. She didn't come with confetti and overblown hype, but with calm, measured words that carry enough weight to shake the league. When a 4-time WNBA champion and 5-time Olympic gold medalist talks, you listen. And that's exactly what the entire WNBA fanbase did. Sue Bird isn't someone who chases clout or throws around compliments just to stay in headlines. She doesn't need to. Her legacy is cast in stone as one of the greatest point guards in WNBA history. So when she chooses to speak up about a team's potential, every general manager, every player, and every serious fan pays attention. She's that rare voice that transcends typical sports commentary. Her statements carry the force of a court order, not a hot take. For Indiana's situation, Sue Bird offered a perspective that cut through the noise. She acknowledged the hype around Caitlin Clark, but also pointed to the solid foundation the Fever had been quietly building over the past few seasons. She mentioned Aaliyah Boston's immediate impact anchoring the paint, Kelsey Mitchell's emergence as a top-level scorer hungry to win, and intangible glue pieces like Lexi Hull, who do the unsung dirty work every contender needs. Bird appreciated the synergy, the mix of young talents and tested veterans, and emphasized that the Fever's rapid transformation was no accident. What made Sue's words so striking wasn't just her endorsement of the roster's skill. It was her caution against overestimating how quickly they could transform into a championship juggernaut. She gently reminded everyone that true chemistry doesn't happen overnight. There's always a trial-by-fire process, especially in a league as competitive as the WNBA. But if anyone understands how a budding powerhouse forms, it's Sue Bird. She's seen how teams coalesce around transcendent players, how a solid coach can orchestrate a locker room full of strong personalities, and how an organization can rise from mediocrity with the right blueprint. In short, she recognized that Indiana has the pieces to be something truly special, maybe even unstoppable. Contrast that level-headed analysis with the dire warnings from Sheryl Swoopes, and you see a canyon-sized gulf between the two viewpoints. One Hall of Famer waved red flags and declared the Fever toxic. The other methodically laid out why they were poised to succeed. It was almost like watching a courtroom drama where one witness is hysterical and the other calmly presents the facts. And in this scenario, the jury, fans, pundits, other players quickly started leaning towards Sue Bird's testimony. The easiest assumption to make is that the Fever's fortunes changed the moment Caitlin Clark arrived. The truth is far more interesting. If you dig into the last few years of Indiana's roster moves, drafts, and front office decisions, you'll notice a pattern of strategic, even shrewd, planning. They were picking up young players with high upside, focusing on high-character individuals, and investing in a coaching philosophy that valued defense, hustle, and player development. Aaliyah Boston's arrival signaled the start of a new chapter for Indiana. She brought immediate star presence in the paint, shining as the type of anchor who could transform an entire defensive scheme. Kelsey Mitchell, for her part, had been quietly racking up points and proving that she's more than just a scorer. She's an essential offensive engine. Then there's Lexi Hull, the kind of gritty, unselfish contributor who might never dominate the highlights but routinely wins hustle plays and outworks her matchups. While these players were cutting their teeth in a team that struggled to rack up wins, they were also setting the groundwork for a culture shift. Yes, there were difficult seasons, years where the Fever's record looked miserable, and you'd see empty seats in the arena. But behind the scenes, a new culture was percolating. There was a growing belief that if they kept acquiring the right pieces and nurturing them, they could break out of the WNBA's basement in a big way. So when the time came to welcome Caitlin Clark, the puzzle was ready for that final, luminous piece. Her selection wasn't a desperate Hail Mary. It was the next logical step in a process that had already begun. When Clark burst onto the scene, it was like someone flipped the lights on in a dimly lit room. Suddenly, national media outlets were all over Indiana's story. Fans started flocking to watch how these pieces might fit together, and crucially, other WNBA players were paying attention too. Because if you're a free agent, you don't just look at the star rookie. You also look at the coaching staff, the veterans, and the overall sense of direction.
Tasha Howard certainly stands out. I loved playing with Tosh.
But you cannot say enough about
Tosh. I really enjoyed playing with her. I think she really is she's just this glue player that doesn't get enough shine for what she does, because a lot of what she does doesn't show up in the box score, but she just is like always in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And a player like that, I think complements what Indiana is built.
And in Indiana, that direction was suddenly clearer than ever. One of the loudest ways to refute a rumor like nobody wants to play here is to have free agents line up at your doorstep. And that's precisely what happened in Indiana. DeWanna Bonner, a name any serious WNBA fan recognizes, arrived as a versatile veteran star who doesn't waste time on vanity. She's there to grab rebounds, score at all three levels, and lock down on defense against anyone from point guards to centers. Then came Natasha Howard, another champion known for her toughness, defensive prowess, and willingness to do whatever's needed to secure a win. Sophie Cunningham joined in as well, bringing her brand of feistiness and three-point marksmanship, an ideal complement to a dynamic offense that now revolves around a pass-first, deep-shooting phenom in Caitlin Clark. Meanwhile, the locker room vibe got a significant boost with the addition of Sydney Colson, who's famous for bringing comedic relief off the court and tenacious defense on it. Colson might not fill the box score every night, but her energy lifts teammates in ways that can't be measured on a stat sheet. Why did these veterans choose Indiana? Part of it is undoubtedly the promise of playing alongside a rising legend in Clark. Her gravitational pull on offense has been compared to some of the greatest shooters in basketball history. But it's more than that. These seasoned pros see a franchise that finally has direction, a front office that's done its homework, and a coaching staff determined to build a real contender. They recognize that the days of Indiana languishing at the bottom of the standings are over. There's potential for something extraordinary, even dynasty level, if they can mesh their skill sets effectively. And that's why Sheryl Swoopes' old claims about toxicity and locker room dysfunction feel almost laughable in retrospect. You don't see players at Bonner's or Howard's level signing long-term deals with a dysfunctional organization. You don't see them praising the coaching staff if they sense disarray. Free agents talk, and a bad rep usually travels faster than a good one. The fact that so many big names sign on the dotted line in Indiana speaks volumes. Another often overlooked part of Indiana's resurgence is Stephanie White. If you only focus on the players, you might miss how critical a role she plays in orchestrating the bigger picture. White isn't a random figurehead handed a clipboard to stand on the sidelines. She's a championship-caliber coach with experience molding raw talent into title contenders. Her track record speaks for itself. As a head coach in Connecticut, she oversaw rosters built around multiple star players, managing egos, injuries, and the daily grind of a competitive season. Now she's in Indiana, reuniting with DeWanna Bonner, someone she's coached before, giving the Fever a head start on forging that elusive team chemistry. White understands each of these veterans intimately, their style, their strengths, and what kind of system helps them thrive. In press conferences, White has been consistently clear about her vision. She wants an offense that flows around Clark shooting and passing, but doesn't become a predictable one-woman show. She wants Boston to anchor the post without feeling she has to carry the entire defensive burden alone. She wants Kelsey Mitchell to continue evolving into that all-around offensive weapon who can drop 25 points on one night and 10 assists the next. She wants Bonner and Howard to be the stabilizers when the young guns have off nights. Most importantly, White fosters a locker room ethos that stands in direct contrast to the toxic environment rumors.
Is one of the greatest point guards of all time in the WNBA. And she's someone who obviously is a part owner in the Seattle Storm. So hyping up another team is a bit of a conflict of interest, if we're being honest.
Players praise her direct communication style, her readiness to listen, and her insistence on accountability. No superstar privileges, no favoritism. If Clark turns heads with a highlight reel, she's still expected to watch film, discuss her mistakes, and keep improving. The same goes for the veterans. The result is a culture that stands on mutual respect and continuous growth, exactly the kind of environment that serious free agents want to be part of. On the basketball court, the Fever's new-look lineup offers a glimpse into what modern offenses and defenses can become when carefully constructed. Caitlin Clark's greatest asset isn't just her Steph Curry-like range, it's her vision. She spots openings before defenders can react, zipping cross-court passes or dishing no-look assists to cutters. With Kelsey Mitchell, she forms a dynamic backcourt that can score from anywhere. If opponents decide to double-team Clark, Mitchell gets open looks. If they focus on Mitchell, Clark gets the space she needs to drop bombs from well beyond the arc. Then there's the front court. Aaliyah Boston provides a backbone on defense, protecting the rim and forcing opponents to think twice before driving in. Pair her with a versatile forward like DeWanna Bonner, and you have two tall, agile defenders who can switch assignments seamlessly. Natasha Howard brings another layer of physicality and hustle, while Sophie Cunningham adds that scrappy edge every successful team needs. She's the type to dive for loose balls, talk a little trash, and hit a clutch three when it matters most. The real key lies in how these pieces open up infinite rotational possibilities. Bonner can play the 3 or 4. Howard can guard taller centers but also step outside to defend perimeter players. Clark can orchestrate half-court sets or run the fast break as soon as she grabs a rebound, lobbing full-court passes if she sees a teammate sprinting ahead. Transition offense could become the Fever's secret weapon. Imagine defenders scrambling to locate Clark while Bonner sprints up the wing, or Kelsey Mitchell spots up at the arc. Defensively, a short WNBA season means there's limited time to build chemistry, but Stephanie White's approach of mixing veteran knowledge with youthful energy could pay off quickly. Veterans like Bonner and Howard know how to call out rotations and keep younger players locked in. Clark might be new to the league, but she's proven she can adjust at Iowa, where the pressure to deliver was colossal. The hope is that by mid-season, everyone understands their roles so well that the Fever can go into the playoffs peaking. No wasted motions, no confusion on switches, just a tight-knit unit poised to make serious noise. Of course, not everyone is buying the Fever's overnight transformation. Some fans of rival teams argue it's all hype, just a product of Clark's massive media draw. They say the league is bending over backward to feature Indiana in marquee matchups, giving them an unfair advantage in exposure and endorsement opportunities. Others claim Clark's style, though flashy, may not translate to guaranteed wins against more experienced, physical defenders. Meanwhile, Sheryl Swoopes has been conspicuously quiet. Those who backed her radioactive locker room narrative are now left explaining why so many veterans eagerly moved to Indiana despite the supposed dysfunction. It's almost as if the doomsday prophecy was built on flimsy rumors, overshadowed by the Fever's new reality. And if you bring up these contradictions, all you'll get are half-answers or deflections about how maybe things change behind the scenes. It's a lesson in how fast the narrative can turn in professional sports, where one dynamic rookie and a few bold trades can spin a franchise's reputation from bleak to brilliant. In the span of a few months, the Indiana Fever have gone from being labeled radioactive to emerging as a likely contender that everyone's talking about. The negativity and gloom once associated with this franchise are fading, replaced by fresh optimism, energetic signings, and an unshakable belief that this could be the start of something legendary. Sheryl Swoopes' words might have rung loud at the time, but Sue Bird's voice of reason has had the final say, and it's a powerful one. This new Fever lineup isn't perfect, but it has all the ingredients you look for in a future powerhouse. A transcendent rookie who can change the temperature of any game. A cadre of veterans who understand the grind of playoff basketball. A coach who knows how to foster trust and cohesion. And a front office willing to make bold moves. Most of all, the team has an underdog chip on its shoulder, fueled by those doomsday predictions that said Indiana was unfixable.